I just want to recognize for taking some time out of his certainly busy day yesterday to sit down with several of our agents, some inside and outside of productivity coaching, just to help them as they are, experiencing what it's like to be in real estate, right? Kind of dealing with the a bit of the overwhelm, a bit of the call reluctance, system building, learning the technology, all that kind of stuff. It can be pretty daunting. And I only was able to be in there for about 15 minutes yesterday, but was very impressed with your presentation and your stage presence. It's very obvious that you have a passion for this business. And one of the things that I've have said in the past is that leaders lead, right? When you're a leader, you can't help but lead, right? And so I just want to make sure, I just want to take a moment to recognize that effort publicly and commend you for that. So thank you for taking a minute to visit with a lot of our newer agents. I do want to just say one or two quick things schedule-wise for today. So there is a Meet the Team event going on a little bit later this afternoon at the Market Center. Does everyone know about that?
Yes, but could you explain a little more?
Does everyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think Ryan was saying, can you
I figured there were some questions on that. I wanted to take it. Talk about it. You guys hear me okay?
You're breaking up.
Can you guys hear me okay?
You break up a little bit.
All right, let me try to get back in the other way. 2 seconds. All right, I think we're better now, right? Okay, beautiful. All right, so hopefully everyone heard my my praise of Chris, right? Okay, good. Okay, so today at the Market Center from 1 to 2:30 is what they're calling a team matchmaker event. Does anyone have any general questions on that first? And then I'll give you some thoughts on it.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure exactly what it is.
Right. Same. Okay. I was like, oh, okay, what exactly is that?
Okay, cool. So just as a quick heads up, if you ever have any questions like that, right? If you see something on the training calendar that you're unclear about, for example, if I hadn't have brought it up this morning, would you have gotten the answers you wanted, right?
No.
And would you have been able to prepare appropriately, right? So if you got questions, something's unclear, just shout it out right away and we'll get you the answers, okay? Okay, now this is the way I understand, this is what I expect it to be, where there will be several representatives from various teams that are in the office and agents that are, curious, so to speak, about teams. And this is an opportunity for you to meet those that might be looking to grow their business in a variety of ways, right? They could be looking for a marketing person or an admin person or a buyer's agent or listing agent, or, it could be anything. So let me just give you like a 2-minute diatribe about teams, if that's okay. I want to make sure that you go into this with the appropriate mindset. Okay. Let's talk about what a team is in the first place. A team is just simply one agent that came into the business, did exactly the stuff we've been talking to you guys about, right? Meeting people, growing the database, learning the presentations, building your confidence, showing up, getting smarter every day, learning the contracts, all that, right? And eventually they go and create so much opportunity for themselves, right? So many different buyers and sellers that they can work with, that they reach basically their capacity. And what I mean by reaching their capacity is that they are no longer able to have the quality of life that they're seeking and or deliver the quality or level of customer experience that their brand has become synonymous with, and that they want their customers to be able to expect
they can no longer do it all themselves and maintain the quality of life that they want and maintain the level of service they want. Okay, no big deal. That's how every business grows, right? So basically, when you're at that point, you've got a couple of choices. You can either go back to where it was less stressful so that you can still do it on your own. You'll just make less money, which may be okay for some. I'm not saying it's wrong. So you retreat to a lower position, right? Lower income, lower stress, lower clients, right? You stay where you are, which unfortunately we have a lot of agents in the industry that for some reason take pride in never going out to dinner with their family and never going on vacation and working every night and holiday and weekend, which I will never understand, right? Or the other option is to grow. What if you went into a restaurant tonight and there was one person there, and that person was the person at the front when you walked in, then they took your order, then they bussed all the tables, then they went back and cooked all your food, then they brought it out to you, then they made your cocktail? You'd be like, what is going on here, right? Because you know right away, if you're going to open up a restaurant, you need some more than one person, right? So why is a real estate business any different? That's the general idea. So I have a team, I believe in teams, but I want you to understand something. If you join a team, more often than not, you are gonna lose some of the control that you were seeking, right? Because now you maybe don't have full control over your calendar. You may or may not have full control over your income, depending on what organization you join, right? So there are obviously some pros. You're almost certainly going to get more at bats, meaning you're probably going to meet with more people and get, build up your confidence, and you'll be more confident. Yet a lot of the efforts that you put out there are going to be for the benefit of the team, meaning like the growth of the database and these kind of things. Now, one of the biggest benefits of being on a team is that you basically don't have to build a business, right? The branding's already in place, the marketing's already in place, the systems and the admin, that's all already in place. And you just come in there and you meet with the buyers and sellers, right? So some teams are hiring people to specifically work in the buyer roles, some the seller roles, some will allow both. There's a lot of different questions to ask. The biggest piece of advice that I have for you today is go in there curious, right? Talk to me about, like, what is your team, like, what's the mission of your organization, right? Tell me a little bit about the history of your organization, right? Tell me a little bit about the team culture, right? Don't get into discussions about splits. Please don't do that. They'll end that conversation very fast. Okay, you'll get to the splits later. Okay, this is more of a personalized discussion. Okay, what do you guys, what's the vision for your business, right? How large is your team, right? What do you like most about being the rainmaker or the owner of the team, right? So you're asking questions to allow them to speak, very much like we do in just about any interaction, right? Yet you are not you're trying to show them that you are professional, courteous, curious, that you're a hard worker, that you're not out there to squeeze as many dollars as you possibly can out of the team, right? And it's all about opportunity, right? Hey, I'm in productivity coaching because I know that that's going to help me build my skill set faster and larger than those that might not be in productivity coaching. And as any business owner would agree, probably, I'm here to learn more about what my options are and how I could potentially help an organization achieve their mission, right? Don't be like, hey, team A, how much are you going to pay me? Team B, how much are you going to pay me? You see what I'm saying? Hey, Chris, I know you've recently joined a team. What is your take on what I just said?
I mean, I agree with you. I would suggest anyone who's even pondering the idea, what I did is I interviewed every team that was looking for people, and I actually talked to folks that were on their team. I literally looked for teams that I wasn't going to feel just like an employee. Find out what's important to you and what really matters, and then see if the team, their vision, their culture aligns with that. Because there are many teams and they're all built differently and they all operate and function completely as polar opposites as others. So talk to as many people as you want, as you can. Ask very insightful questions that are going to be very, very dear to your heart to make sure that literally they align with what you believe in. That's what's going to make it a little bit easier to differentiate who you would want to potentially join or not.
Right. And please understand that the Keller Williams system for hiring is something called career visioning. Right. So like Candace and I have done career visioning before, or I've put her through career visioning before. Right. So like I know her like birth weight and her blood type and like what she loves having for breakfast. Like it's going to be incredibly detailed. You are not going to get hired from a 5-minute meeting. Okay. They're going to put you through an intense process to make sure that there's alignment between your behavior and your tendencies and your mission and your goals and that of the organization. Okay. By the way, if they don't put you through that process, they're not following the model.
And what's important about not,
then you should be asking yourself, why are you not following the model? I'm confused. Don't ask that today, but you should be asking that to yourself. Why is this person not following the model when Gary Keller built the model and it's worked for thousands of other agents? I'm curious about that. What were you going to say, Candace?
I was going to say, and what's important about the model is it gives you and them a chance to know that you are a good fit for their team and they're a good fit for you. And we often just hire people that we like, but they might not be the right fit for that position. And so ultimately they're not successful. So the career visioning kind of is a way to guard against that. It's not fail safe, but it's pretty darn good.
Right. It gives everyone an opportunity to kind of see what it's like. You could see what it's like before you get married, basically. Right. And just like they're interviewing you, you ought to be interviewing them as well. And it kind of gives you the ability to do so. But if they're not following the model, and if anyone out there doesn't follow the model, and I know there's a few teams that don't, you can tell them I think they should follow the model. And if they're not following the model, I'm going to be curious about what their coach says about that. They likely don't have a coach, by the way. Make sense?
It's a wild ride, guys. It's pretty impressive and very insightful for both sides. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've done, I really, really like that process because I've been, I have a psychology background. So I really kind of, I really enjoy it probably more than most people would. It helps you identify problems, right? Hey, how come when you left this job to go to this job, tell me about that. Oh, well, my boss was a jerk. Oh, so when you left this job to go to this job, what happened? Oh, my boss was a jerk. Oh, when you left this job to go to this job, what happened? Oh, so my boss was a jerk. Okay, this I don't think, this is not a tendency I want to get involved in. You see what I'm saying? Okay, Candace.
Wait, can I ask a quick question, Bill?
Yeah, of course.
About teams. Is there like a certain way that they're all set up, or is it every team is actually like very different? I mean, I know that that's not what today is about, but I'm just trying to understand, like, what is it? What's the main advantage of going to a team versus trying to keep doing what you're doing on your own?
Have you ever read the book Rocket Fuel?
No.
A really interesting book, and it talks about this idea of a visionary and an implementer, right? So if you go back to basically almost every successful company and many successful business owners, they're generally had a kind of a front-facing person, but they also had a back person. Like Steve Jobs was the front guy and Wozniak was the back guy, right? Zuckerberg was the front guy, but he had all of his buddies doing the coding, right? So oftentimes there's the visionary, and then there's the person or people that execute it all. Very rarely do you find one person being able to do both, right? Like Elon Musk is kind of an example of that, which is incredibly rare. Obviously, he's the most wealthiest person in the world. So with that said, I think you're going to find a number of similarities, right? And what the roles are and in what order they're hired. But the way that kind of the culture of the team is going to be the biggest difference, right? Are the managers or the owners, are they what's the word I want to say? Are they micromanagers? Are they, do they give you too much freedom? What's the system of accountability that I could expect, right? What are the standards of being on this team? Well, we don't have any standards. Okay, well, I don't work here. You see what I'm saying? The goal should, here's the number one question is, before I even entertain speaking to a team, I want to make sure I'm super clear on why I got into this business. What am I hoping to achieve? What lifestyle am I hoping to create? And how much money does that require? Okay. Then once you're clear on that, you can go and speak to the other teams. And the thought that you should be having in the back of your mind is, can I get everything I want within this organization? Right? If I join this organization, does that mean I'm no longer able to pursue my goals because of some type of restriction or setup or policy or whatever, or not, right? You might go to a team that says, hey, we'll give you 70% of the commission and we're going to give you 2 leads a month. Okay, that's probably not a good opportunity. But if they say, hey, we're going to do 50-50 like the model says, and in some situations 40-60, but we're going to do this and this and this and this and this and this for you, right? And here are the standards, and here's the marketing plan, and here's what the brand means, and here's the event calendar, and you'll probably get 100 leads a month. That's a different opportunity. You see what I'm saying? Okay, does that make sense?
Yes,
I don't like saying this phrase, but I'll probably say it anyway, which is, we're all building somebody's empire, right? I'm helping Andy build his empire, helping Gary Keller build his, right? But I'm able to get what I want while doing it. So the question is are you going to build your own empire, or are you going to help build someone else's empire? And if you're choosing to help build somebody else's empire, can you still get everything you want while serving in that role? And if the answer is yes, yeah, you should give it some really serious thought. If the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't. Candace, you want to add anything to that now that I've taken almost your entire time?
Just that I was on a team for 2 months, a very, very, very successful team over at Compass. And after 2 months, I determined that I have too much D to let anybody else be my boss. And I wanted to run things differently than the way it was being run. So understand your personality as well. That's an important part of it. And I hated that I left after 2 months, but I was just chafing. I was just chafing to be able to say, hey, this is better, do it this way. So anyway, that was my experience. If you're a high D, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just so you know, it's not like a marriage where you can't leave, right? There's people that come on and off teams all the time. So that don't sweat that part. Any other thoughts, questions? Was this helpful? All right,
yes,
beautiful.
thank you.
Okay, so that's from 1 to 2:30 today. I put this in the email newsletter or email thing on Sunday, but I just want to remind you about this. On the 20th and 21st of October, there is a free live stream of Gene Rivers, who's probably my favorite KW instructor, doing a business planning clinic for anyone that wants to attend. It's going to be streamed on KW Connect. We'll give you all the details later, and on a Facebook page. But it's from, what is it? I think 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, or is that right? What time is that, guys? 10 to 4 on Wednesday and Thursday, the 20th and 21st.
I think I said 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 or something.
1 to 5. It's 1 to 5 on the calendar.
You're correct. I'm looking on my calendar right now. 1 to 5. By the way, I wanted to show you something. See this? This is a month at a glance calendar. Okay, we got a ton of programming in October, and what I had to do was to put it all on this piece of paper to essentially figure out how many working days do I have this month, so that I can hit my goals and whatever shorter number of days I'm ultimately going to work, so that I don't have to at the end of the month be like, oh, well, I went to that thing and I went to that thing and I did Bold and I did that thing and I did Fall Festival, so I couldn't call anyone all month long. Okay, and you don't have any closings in December and you wonder why, right? So take some time to plan out your calendar, okay? All right, I think I'm off my soapbox for today. Candace, would you like to take over?
I would. So today we're going to talk about time blocking for success. And first I'm going to make a case for time blocking. Time blocking is, when I want to define it, time blocking is a productivity technique for personal time management where a period of time, typically a day or week, is divided into smaller segments or blocks for specific tasks or to-dos. It integrates the function of a calendar with that of a to-do list, and it's a kind of scheduling. If you think about when you were in high school, you had math for one period, you had English for one period, you had gym for one period. That's kind of what time blocking is. So that simplifies it out. And what happens is when you're in math class, you're not doing English work, right? When you're in English class, you're not doing gym stuff. So it helps you to really kind of categorize and time block that focus so that you can really get the job done on what you're working on. The other thing is time blocking. These are stats. Time blocking can save up to 80% of your time because it's single task focused rather than multitask. Multitasking dilutes our focus and we don't get as much done and it takes us longer. So if you're somebody who says, oh, I have to multitask, just they've proven that multitasking is not something that humans can do very successfully. So single task is just much more effective. Also, time blocking takes our intentions, our to-dos, our must-dos, and our should-dos, and sets a purposeful time for them so that we get them accomplished. And when we stick to our schedule, this is really important. We create habits that increase our performance and move us closer to our goals. Remember that it's not our intentions that create success, it's our habits that create success. So time blocking is a way of making your habits come to life.
Can you explain that just a tiny bit more? I want to make sure everyone heard that really clearly.
Yeah, so I can write down on my goals that I want to have 40 transactions, but if my habits don't support that, if I'm not lead genning and contacting the number of people that I need to contact each day, that's not going to get me to where I need to go. So I have to create the habit of lead gen and blocking that out to be able to make those contacts per day. That's just one example. You want to say something, Bill?
Yeah, I'll give you just a slight different perspective on that, which is it's not, the words are important, right? So it's not you have to create a habit of lead generation, is you have to quit the habit of not lead generation and then create the habit of lead generation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not creating it necessarily, it is changing it, because you got habits. You either have a habit of eating poorly or a habit of eating healthy. You have a habit of exercising or you have a habit of not exercising. Right. So you have to identify, it may be more complicated than you think, right? Because if you're all of a sudden going to put lead gen on your calendar, you've been doing something in that time slot for all your life that now you're going to have to make an adjustment on. So you got to focus on that too.
Yeah, and I would say to that, we're going to talk a little bit farther into this about exactly what should be on your calendar. But if you just do the one thing again, if you just add one thing, the most important thing, which is lead gen to your calendar, that's more important than getting everything on your calendar all at once and trying to create all these habits, if that makes sense. Give yourself some grace, but get the most important priority things on your calendar, get those habits established, then add some other things in. So for instance, if you schedule every morning, Monday through Friday, this huddle, make sure there's a Zoom link in your, when you click, so you don't have to go search for it. That saves you time. And more time, when we talk about productivity and saving time and getting more done in a shorter amount of time, that means that you have more time for the things that you want to do, the things that are maybe you want to spend more time with your kids or your family, or you have hobbies that you really love. So this is all designed to give you more of that. And the other thing is, when we get busy, if it's not on the calendar, it's so easy to miss an appointment or a call. It's so easy. And it's also easy to miss if you don't look at your calendar. I'm just going to say that too. Time blocking turns your tasks into time slots and helps you equate tasks to your valuable time. So the difference between a to-do list is that it doesn't usually have the urgency, but time on your calendar is set aside to tackle something does have urgency. It's Monday at 8 o'clock, 8:30. I know it's time for the huddle. I'm going to be on the huddle, right? Also, it saves on procrastination when something is scheduled and the time is set aside for it. Why does it work? Well, it works because it requires a weekly review of your schedule, and it forces you or encourages you to prioritize tasks. When you figure out the week and adjust your time blocks accordingly for each day, you can review at the end of the day when you're starting to help you adjust as needed. So if you have a day when you've maybe time blocked everything so close together and you found yourself overwhelmed, or you found yourself not getting a lot done because things kept running into each other, you can make tweaks to it, review it at the end of the day, see what's working, and then change it up to make it better for you. The other thing is when time blocking your schedule becomes your touchstone, it eliminates the need to decide what you should focus on. So if you wake up not knowing what to do, well, this is a way to not have that happen. This is a way to know every moment of every day, or not every moment, but the moments of your workday, to allow you to know what to do, so that you don't have that waking up and just wondering, what are other people doing? What am I supposed to be doing? The other time blocking benefits include, and I'm making a case for time blocking for those of you who don't like structure. And I'm one of those who doesn't like a lot of structure, but structure is what helps us get where we need to go. So other time blocking benefits include, it gives you a chance to renew your commitment to your priorities and to what really matters in your life. This will become extremely evident as you block your calendar each week and need to make decisions over what matters most. Time blocking is the key to eliminating procrastination, since you'll have an allotted time to both begin and complete the task. And time blocking helps you become a master over meeting disruptions. If you've blocked out time for meetings, you won't feel bad for turning down meetings that are not on your block. So I think that's important. It also allows you to become more efficient once you group similar tasks together in a time block, and can bring skills to completing the task. And also, in contrast, you'll find yourself wasting time switching between dissimilar tasks when you don't time block. So, that transition, does anyone else have difficulty with transition? It's like in high performance habits, Brendan talks about that when you switch from one thing to another, take a minute to breathe and say, release, release, release. And then you set your intention on, what can I do to bring my best self to this next task, so that we don't have that difficulty with transaction. A really great example of that is when you come back from vacation and you're like, you just can't get into the swing of things. That's a transition kind of difficulty, but time blocking helps you kind of negotiate the transition difficulty. So there's some different ways you can time block. Not everybody uses a Google Calendar, and we'll get into that. You can have a board with Post-it notes, so you can move them around if you need to. Most important thing is they have the time on them, and the activity, and then things around it that you might need to make that activity successful. So there's something called day theming. Day theming is a more advanced form of time blocking. You can batch smaller tasks together, but you also create a specific theme for your entire day as well. It allows you to focus on larger areas of your life. So for example, you might concentrate all Saturdays and Sundays on door knocking and open houses. That's day theming. Monday might be a follow-up day for those contacts, sending any promised information, calling to schedule appointments and showings, searching homes, setting up a contact on an auto email. That's what day theming kind of is. Or for bold, we're getting ready to start bold. Make 1 or 2 days the days you're going to make 100 contacts. You don't have to do 25 contacts a day for 5 days. You could do it all at once because you get in the flow, you get in the zone, and it's a little bit easier. So if you want to do a day theme like that, every once in a while to just give things some variety, that's okay too. Go ahead.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
So remember, we've been talking about for a long time this idea of two primary things that we focus on each day. One is the learning component, and the other is the speaking to people component, right? And I think that Candace's idea for themes is really, really applicable for the learning component. So for example, you could say to yourself, today, my learning slot is going to be on the seller presentation. And tomorrow, my learning slot is going to be on the seller presentation again, right? It could be a whole week of before the weekend, I'm going to be really, really good at the seller presentation. And that's my intention. And then once you state your intention, you got to go look at your calendar to make sure the appropriate time is blocked off for it. And then you don't sit down at your learning time and say, okay, should I do this technology thing, or should I learn about that contract, or should I go look at some property or whatever? You've already pre-decided what you're supposed to do to learn at that moment.
Yeah, I love that. And we all have different personalities, and I would just say, for instance, an ideal calendar for me would be to only lead gen on Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays would be follow-up, Thursdays would be appointments, and Fridays would be all day learning, because I like big blocks of times. But we don't always have that luxury. So we have to kind of make sure we have things on our calendar during the day that, we've got a lot of classes to go to and so on and so forth. So, but in an ideal world, that would be a schedule I would love. There's also something called time boxing. And time boxing is simply blocking out a specific unit of time within your calendar to do a future task. So for instance, if you're new to time, sorry. Okay, and so if you've ever accepted a meeting invite and had Outlook automatically add it to your calendar, that's called time boxing. You can add more structure to your day by further time boxing necessary tasks. So if you can't get to something this week, but you really need to get it done, put it on your calendar for the following week. For instance, and this is an example Bill's going to love, blocking out a few minutes each Sunday to report numbers, or for this time blocking out time on October 10th to report the numbers for October 1 through 10, putting that on your calendar for in the future so you don't forget it, and also so you get it taken care of.
Okay, let me add one thing to that, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So there's a guy named Ben Kinney. He's the #1 agent in all of Keller Williams. His group will sell like 4,000 or 5,000 homes this year. It's insane, right? One of the things that his assistant does for him every week is looks at his week of commitments and cancels half of them, right? So for example, like let's say I agree to go to coffee with a buddy of mine today, but on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, I look at my week, right? How I performed in the previous week, right? What I need to do to get back on track if I'm behind in the week ahead. What other things are going on in my life that I may not have even been aware of on Tuesday when I agreed to that commitment. And now I have to basically, I essentially have to ask it to defend its place in my calendar, for lack of a better way to put it, right? So now that my business has developed for 5 more days, and I likely have reorganized my priorities a little bit, and maybe I'm thinking about life and business and my family slightly differently, is that coffee appointment still the best use of my time? Or should I call the guy and say, hey, you know what? Lunchtime for coffee doesn't work anymore. I should be done making all my contacts at 11 o'clock at night. Want to go have a beer? Right? It could be anything, but the work day is for work. You got to treat it like a job.
So I also want to talk about how to time block. And so it's really important to decide what you care about the most. If you have clarity on that question, it'll be the basis for your time blocking decisions. Do you want more time with your kids while keeping a reasonable schedule? Do you want more freedom from emails and distracting meetings? Just what Bill was saying, do you want to generate work that is more meaningful and impactful? Do you want to create a big life with big goals, big financial goals? The answers to these questions are going to inform what appears on your time blocking calendar. So there's kind of a step before time blocking, and that's deciding what's important to you. Every single one of our calendars is similar but different because of what's important to us. You look like you want to say something, Bill.
I don't mind saying something if you want me to, but you know, it kind of reminds me of like if I were to look at your calendar, if I were to say, hey, Lori, show me your calendar, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you're going to say, I don't have a calendar, right? Or you might say, well, I have one, but it's empty. Or I might say, hey, look at it. It's totally color-coded and organized and I know exactly where I need to be at exactly the right time, right? So if you look at my calendar, sometimes there's even overlap, right? And then at the beginning of the week, I got to figure out what's most important and move some of the stuff, right? But I'm almost down to like when I'm going to go to the bathroom on my calendar, right? Because every minute is so important. And if you look at my calendar, you'll see exactly what's important to me, right? It's y'all, learning, family, right? That's basically what it is. Not necessarily in that order, no offense, but that's what you'll find, right? If I were to look at your credit card statement, I would know exactly what's important to you, right? Do you value, spending $200 at the bar? Or do you value spending $200 in your business? You see what I'm saying? All right, I think I'm really done. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
You can talk anytime, you always add something. The very first step is to create a to-do list. Once you know what you care about most, the next step is to write out your daily to-do list. Be sure to include both personal and work tasks. Next, group items into the appropriate time blocks, such as meetings, email, family time, and any lead gen, learning, and other high-value projects. Schedule mandatory tasks first. Like you got to get your kids off to school, right? That's mandatory. Schedule that. Any high priority task should be at the top of your to-do list. So when you write your to-do list and you rearrange it, you're going to put your high priority things at the top because you're going to schedule those first. You can also bookend your work time blocks by first creating personal blocks at the beginning and end of your workday. I call that morning and evening ritual. So morning ritual is my time for me. It's my time to get myself ready for the morning. We've talked about that so many times. We talked about it yesterday. It's how you get yourself primed for the day. The evening ritual is getting yourself prepared for bed. And the pre-leave ritual, which we talked about yesterday, is getting yourself ready for the next day. So make sure you have time for your personal obligations because you're limiting the length of your working day. You can practice task batching. Who knew all these terms were out there, right? Task batching is when you do a bunch of similar tasks at once. For instance, with the golden letters, you can use task batching for something as simple as stuffing golden letters into envelopes. So for instance, the standard way would be to take a letter, fold it, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, put the stamp on. That takes more time because you're transitioning between the thing. But what if you folded every single letter, put it just in the fold of the envelope that it goes in, do all of the 100 letters at once, and then place all the, next step is you take all the letters, put them into that envelope, do all of that at once, and then the next step is to seal all the envelopes. Getting into a repetitive rhythm can save time. Okay, let's see here. So unplanned events, even the best schedule can fall apart when faced with urgent demands and distractions of the moment. So just create a block for urgent tasks. Make sure you've got some white space on your calendar for fires that you need to put out. You need to pick up your kid at school because they hopefully didn't act up, but maybe they just want their mom or their dad. Maybe something is going kind of crazy with a a transaction and you need to schedule out some time for that. So just make sure you've got some white time on your calendar so you can take care of those things and you don't get stressed that way. You also increase efficiency by protecting the time and attention required for more important tasks. Oh, I've got my new camera that's supposed to have a microphone. Yeah, and I can't hear you. Okay, you can either use the Google Calendar or you can use a daily planner or both. I know Bill uses both. You want to say how you do that, Bill, for people who haven't heard that?
Sure. So I have a calendar that looks like this. This is from a company called PlannerPad. So this has like year at a glance, month at a glance, and week at a glances. And this is basically where I put everything that is day sensitive or week sensitive, but is not time sensitive. So in many ways, it's kind of a to-do list. And in many ways, it is also a kind of an idea dump, if you will. So like if I have something I want to remind you guys about, or if I have a quote I want to share, or an idea, or, you know, I sketch something out or something, it goes here. If I said, hey, Lori, I'm going to call you tomorrow, you know, just to explain something to you, right? But we don't talk about a specific time, then it would go on this, right? And this is in front of me almost all day long, okay? Then I have my Google Calendar, which is synced to my cell phone, and that's where I put all my appointments. So when I've committed to meeting somebody at a certain day, certain time, or doing something at a certain day, certain time, it goes on the Google Calendar. And I have that, yeah, I have that, you know, right here all throughout the day, so I can see exactly where my time commitments are. So basically all day long, I'm between these two things, making sure that not only my task stuff gets taken care of, but that my appointments are respected.
Yep, and so thank you for that. And so, like I said, you could use Google Calendar, you can use a daily planner, you can use both. You could have a whiteboard with where you write things out, you know, the calendar that you can get the whiteboard with the calendar days on it and you can mark everything out. I like the Google Calendar because I can schedule things in advance. So I've got things scheduled for, and they repeat. So I've got things that repeat that I don't have to add on each week. I think that's easy and saves time for me. And I can also,
yeah, like your one-on-ones, or
yes,
you know, this call,
yes,
or any of the classes that like GLG offers that have, you know, like let's say you wanted to do the
high accountability.
Yeah, the high accountability or the script class or something like that, that just repeats every single week, and you can have the Zoom link attached to it. You just hit the button, boom, you don't have to search for anything.
And by the way, there's now a dual career script practice every Monday and Wednesday from 6 to 6:45. You don't have to be dual career to be on that, just so you know. And we posted the link in the dual career WhatsApp, but I'll post it in the regular WhatsApp as well in case you want to be on that tomorrow. So if you're new to time blocking, there's some common mistakes you can avoid. One is underestimating your time. Most of us are guilty of underestimating the time it takes to complete a task. So when creating a new time block, it makes sense to pad the time so you don't get frustrated with the process. And with practice, you'll get a better understanding of how long it takes to complete something. And you can plan accordingly. Don't forget about breaks. We're human. We can't be machines. So we need to create a block for lunch and regular breaks. It's not healthy to sit at your desk and eat while you're working. I'm just going to say that. If you've ever been to another country in Europe, PM, Anthony. It's 6 to 6:45 p.m.
I just love that question. My God, I just got to recognize that, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you.
That is the mindset of somebody who is committed to their success.
Agreed.
If we were to say, hey, there's a script practice at 5 in the morning, if you're interested, there's some people who would say 5 in the morning, I'm more committed to my sleep than I am to that. You were prepared to show up at 6 a.m. if that's when the class started because you're committed to learning what needs to be learned.
Love
fantastic.
That. Yeah, agreed. So there are studies that show that when we eat in the car, when we eat it while we're working, we don't refresh. It's kind of like when you take a vacation and you come back refreshed and energetic and you're ready to work, unless your vacation was touring at 20 countries in 3 days. But if you have a relaxing vacation, you come back refreshed. And that's important because then we have our energy in a better place to start something. So make sure you block those times for breaks. I use the Pomodoro focus timer. I've shared that with many of you. It's an app. For instance, if I'm lead genning, I set it automatically sets for 25 minutes, and then the alarm goes off and I get a 5-minute break. I get to walk around, I get to get a cup of coffee, I get to get a glass of water, whatever it is. And then it sets it again for 25 minutes. And by the time I do that a couple of times, I'm at 60 minutes, which is typically my time block for lead gen in the morning. That's what I have. So you can use those apps as tools as well to help you. Then there may be days, it's kind of like when you go to the gym and there are days when you're like, I've got this. And then there are days you go to the gym and you're like, man, I don't feel weak. I don't feel like doing this, and my head's not right and I can't get it right. Well, just make sure you take a day if you need to walk away from your schedule. Don't do it too often or you're not going to get anywhere, but honor yourself if you're having a day where you're not quite there. And it's difficult to imagine every day solely dedicated to total productivity. It's good to have a daily routine, but you can't expect to stick to it perfectly every day. We're humans, we're not perfect. So don't beat yourself up if you miss something, right? And also don't believe you need to follow your time blocks rigidly. They're fluid. There are certain things that are on your calendar that you can't get away from, like getting your kids ready for work, like maybe making dinner, but you don't have to be, the rest of your work is fluid, and as long as you're accomplishing what you want to do, you have control over that. It's your time block, actually, your calendar. While you need to respect your time blocks, there are always unexpected things that come up. Don't stress too much if you need to move some parts of your schedule around. Don't be too general with time blocks. If you're not specific, you won't know what to work on. So try to break down all of the steps for larger tasks. Then estimate how long each bite-sized step will take you. So for instance, you want to get your seller presentation together. Well, you might need to watch a video first on how to do that. You might need to ask questions of somebody on how they do that. You might see something that you like on somebody else's listing presentation. So that would be something that you would schedule in, and then you would schedule in the time to actually work on it, and then you would schedule the time to practice it. Those are all steps that go into that one big block of creating the seller presentation. Schedule out time for things that are typically distractions allows you to put a limit on them. So for instance, if you know that you're going to have I'm trying to think of what distractions. If I can't think of any distractions, Bill, can you? We don't have a lot of distractions here in the office.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Say that again.
One of the mistakes that you can make is not scheduling out time for things that are typically distractions, because it's important to do that because it allows you to put a time limit on them. So maybe, I can say, so maybe your emails, you schedule out 25 minutes to answer emails, something like that. Maybe you schedule out time to answer your texts, and you don't let them pop up all the time, and you keep your phone turned down instead of up so that you don't see them popping up.
Yeah, I turned off notifications like 2 or 3 years ago, and I don't get notifications anymore.
Yeah.
And the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that is scheduling kind of miscellaneous time.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you have 30 minutes of miscellaneous time a day, and that's where you can, call a friend back that called, or that's when you can run to the bank, or that's when you can, order dinner or whatever. Like that way you don't have to feel like everything needs to be handled immediately.
Yeah. So think of it like your junk drawer in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Schedule your junk time. Okay, calendar tips. So work expands to fill the time that's available for its completion. It's kind of like a purse. The bigger it is, the more we put in it. So make sure that's actually Parkinson's law. So we've talked about the different kind of calendars. You can also color code some people use different calendars. So for instance, some people have a personal Google calendar, then they have a work calendar, then they have an appointment calendar, and you can overlay the three by just like, let's see if I can share an example.
Just checking them, basically.
Yeah, just checking them. But you can also, in Google, have them all three show up on one calendar, just by allowing the calendars to sync. So you can kind of see what they all look like. Also, so on your daily routine calendar, now we're going to talk about what's ideal. Your daily routine calendar could have, let me not say should, but could have your more, these are what successful people have on their calendars. So
you want me to show you something real fast?
Yes, please.
So like, this is my calendar. This is an overlay of the Georgia Legacy Group PC events.
Thank you. That's what I was just talking about.
This is an overlay of, like, let's say Aubrey's calendar. This is an overlay of Robin's calendar, right? This is an overlay of my wife's calendar, right? So I can see anything I need to see very quickly, you know, and I'm also designing, like, here's another calendar that Candace and I kind of operate off of. And I have another calendar for another project that I'm working on to make sure it doesn't overlap with any of my other commitments. So it just gives me an opportunity to kind of visualize all the different things that I've got going on and all the people that I spend the most time with, basically, to make sure that I know what they're up to and they know what I'm up to, and we can, you know, make everything easier.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're going to use 3 calendars, and first you're going to create your daily routine calendar. It's going to be broad. It's going to be your morning ritual. It's going to be work, lunch, work, your pre-leave ritual, and the pro tip is use the daily success tracker that's in our private PC Google Drive as a tool to stay on track and know what to do each day. You can plan out the people that you're going to call the next day. You can write in the promises you've made. Then after the pre-leave ritual, there's dinner, maybe personal family time. There's a bedtime ritual. That's your daily routine calendar. Then your work calendar is take the time scheduled on the daily routine calendar that's marked off for work and block it out specifically. So for instance, you want to have lead gen, learning, that includes Huddle, classes, reading, training, team meetings. Appointments is another thing you want to have on there. You want to have time for follow-up, time for returning phone calls, time for checking emails. Extras include developing content for a blog, social media, etc. Schedule a day when you can block out a period of time for catch-up. Schedule a day when you can block out a period of time for catch-up. So you don't have to catch up every single day. That's in that junk category of, oh, I want to get that done. It'll make me feel better, but it's not a priority. So just make sure, like, maybe once a week you've got time for your junk catch-up. Pro tips, use the daily success tracker as a tool to list names of people you intend to contact the next day. And I just said that any promises you have made, and review what you've learned. Use the focus timer app that I just talked about. Make sure to leave breathing room between transitions. And then only include things on your calendar that you intend to do. And that's the last piece of advice for our time blocking. Only put things on your calendar that you intend to do. There's something called creating a pattern of success. And if you're creating steps that you can be successful at, it will make you want to do more, and it will make you successful when you start to take more steps or bigger steps. So only put on your calendar what you intend to do and what you'll commit to. It's
also like the psychology of, you know, like, let's say you put lunch on your calendar every day, and then every day you just work right through lunch. Your brain is affected by that, right? Your brain then tells you that you can't follow your schedule and that you're missing lunch, and you start feeling guilty, and then you start resenting the people that you're spending time with during that time. It's just a downward spiral from that point on. Okay. Thank you, Candace. This was phenomenal. Again, it's very clear that you are spending some time preparing, and I'm very grateful for that. Will you, I assume you'll share the thing that you've been reading off of with the group?
Yes, absolutely. I'll post this in the PC Help.
And then, hey, Chris, I want to give you just a 2-minute platform to, let's pretend that all these people were in your class yesterday. Can you sum up your session? What was the message that you shared with agents that were in that room yesterday?
I mean, one of the biggest home was one thing, time blocking and lead gen. They kind of all go hand in hand. one of the biggest things that a lot of people didn't realize is where to start, right? So what I was reiterating was, when you time block for lead gen, make sure you stick to it. Don't be distracted. Make sure you can commit to it, but figure out what's going to fit your personality profile. Some people like door knocking. Some people like cold calling. Some people just want to send emails. You have to find what's going to be relative to you so that you know that you can actually not go into that task fearing it and be excited, confident, and comfortable doing it, right? Then you're going to start building that momentum so that therefore now you've mastered that one thing, you move on to the next and build another skill set that you can now enhance your ability to lead gen. And it just kind of creates this forward motion, this forward momentum that keeps snowballing. So that was one of the big takeaways from yesterday.
Cool. Anyone have any questions of Chris or me or Candace?
I was just going to say that there was, and Chris, I really wanted to go to your class. I didn't know about it until too late. So I'm sorry. I would have loved to have heard that. But
no worries.
One other thing on the time blocking thing, I saw this, this just came up yesterday. Hold on. Let me just see if I can turn off this background because that'll help. All right. Can you guys see this? It's like where is it? Here. It's like a real estate, live like a millionaire realtor planner.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
And it has like priorities and tasks and appointments. It's like a one-day thing. I'll put it in the chat. I think I can link it. But
yeah, I love the format about that. Number one, because it identifies what the priorities are. Number two, it is in your face all day long that you shouldn't be doing every task that you think you should be doing. And if you get through the day and you haven't set any appointments, you got to ask yourself, wait, my job is to set appointments. What am I doing? Right?
Yeah, I liked it. And then there was also a site that I heard about, I looked at it was in the One Thing podcast, but it's called like, what's it called? lifebywhitney.com. And you can actually design your own planner.
Oh, cool.
And so you can go on there and like put in exactly what you need. And there's different, like if you want it to look more creative, or if you want it to look very, stark, like there's different ways that you can do it. So you can make your own planner, and that might help you if you're struggling to find, because I know a lot of people said, I've bought 30 different planners. I can't find the right one. So you can actually go on there and I think design, I haven't tried it yet. I've just kind of looked at some of the examples, but you can actually go on there and design your own and put what you want on it.
Will you share the link for those in the group that
yeah,
were
I will
this morning?
I will.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll just post it in the announcements real fast. So people don't lose it when I shut this down. Thank you guys so much for being with us this morning. Candace, thank you. Chris, thank you. Thank you guys all for asking great questions, and look forward to chatting with you maybe today at the team meeting. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody.